Hey everybody, here is the second half of the trig ratio and Pythagorean theorem notes. We're going to actually go over the trig ratios on this one. Up at the top of this page, I am going to write down my SOHCAHTOA just so I don't have to keep flipping back and forth. I know on your page you can just look back and forth, so if yours you want to keep it, you can. On these questions, it will always specify if it wants you to round or if it wants the exact answer. And just a reminder, we did go over how to do this kind of stuff. So how to get a rational denominator, aka cross out the radical in the bottom, end up with that one. And then how to simplify our radicals previously last week so that we could be able to do questions like these. That's why we went over it in the first place. So let's go over this first one, and then you can try another one. It says, find the tan of x rounded to the nearest hundredth. So I'm looking for tangent. Tangent is TOA. So I'm looking for a tan of x. That would be the opposite over the adjacent. So to be able to do that, you need to know which one is the opposite and which one is the adjacent. So let's look at x. It's right here. Easiest way to remember. The easiest one to know is the hypotenuse. It's always going to be across from the right angle. The second easiest one to remember is the opposite side. It's the one that doesn't touch your angle. My angle is here. I'm not touched by this number over here because that's the opposite number. And that would make this guy our adjacent one. Your angle is always composed of the adjacent side and the hypotenuse. So the opposite side is always the one that's not part of your angle. Let's go ahead and write what we got. So we got opposite, which is 12, over adjacent, which is 5. Normally this would be our answer because it's a fully simplified fraction, but this says round to the nearest hundredth. So I will type this in the calculator. And the calculator tells me 2.4. I'm going to put 2.40 because it did ask for a hundredths place. I didn't have one because that was exactly 2.4. So that's how you do it. Pretty straight and simple. Go ahead and see if you can figure out the next one. And then come on back when you're ready to check it. Here is number 2. I was looking for the cosine of z. Cosine is cos, so COTOA, or chi. I was trying to say cos. Well, anyways, it's right here. Adjacent over hypotenuse. First thing I'm going to do is circle my angle that I'm looking at. I'm looking at z. And then the easiest one to identify is the hypotenuse. It's across from the right angle. Second easiest to identify is the opposite. It's the one that doesn't touch our angle. Your angle is always going to be composed of the hypotenuse and the adjacent side. So the opposite side is the one that does not interact with your angle. That would make this one the adjacent side. Now, adjacent over hypotenuse would be 21 over 35. It asked for the fraction in simplest form, so we couldn't leave it like this because they can both be divided by 7. And that gives me 3 over 5. Go ahead and try the next one. Here is our answer. You're looking for the cosine of d. I circled d. I identified my sides. Hypotenuse is across from the right angle. Opposite does not make up my angle. Hypotenuse and adjacent do make up my angle. And then I got to here. It asked for nearest hundredth. I wanted to round. So I typed it in the calculator and it gave me 0.40. So I added a 0 on there because I wanted a hundredth place. Good. Let's go to one that actually requires math. Looking at the next one here, we'll do this one, then you can try this one. It says, find the exact value of the sine of t in simplest radical form. That means there's going to be a radical maybe in the answer. And we want to make sure we're fully simplified. So SOHCAHTOA, the sine of t equals the opposite over the hypotenuse. I'm going to circle t. The opposite side is over here, not touching my angle. And the hypotenuse is the one that is across from the right angle. That gets me to here. This could be our answer, but it's not because square root of 20 could be simplified, and we know that because we practiced this last week. So what I'm going to do is see how I can simplify the square root of 20 by dividing it into a perfect square and another number. And a perfect square that goes into 20 is 4. So that would turn into this. The square root of 4 is 2. And then I could simplify here. 2 goes into 2 one time. It goes into 6 3 times. So my sine of t is the square root of 5 over 3. And there we go. That's how you do it. So the reason we learned how to do this in the first, well, we reviewed it so you could do questions like this. That was our goal. Perfect. Go ahead and try these next two. The sine of G and the tangent of D. Just a heads up, tan of D is going to have a radical in the denominator, and you're going to have to multiply by an equivalency of 1 to get that radical out of the denominator. So try these two and then come on back when you're ready. Welcome back. Here are our answers. So for the first one, the sine of G is 5 square root of 3 over 11. You got that here by simplifying square root of 75. And then tan of D is 17 square root of 2 over 12. This one, like I said before, does have a radical in the denominator originally because looking at D here, our opposite side was 17. Our adjacent side is the square root of 72. And to get rid of that, we multiplied by an equivalency of 1, which is square root of 72 over square root of 72. That gets rid of our radical in the bottom. And then we see if we could simplify this. We could. It is 36 times 2. Square root of 36 is 6. That gets me to here. And then I could still simplify again. 6 divided by 72 is 1 over 12. And that got me to there. The last two here are very simple mathematically because I want to make sure you understand how to use the reciprocal ones. Looking at these, we have an exact value in simplest form for both. It's looking for the cosecant of V. So looking over here, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, so it's hypotenuse over opposite. Remember, I'm never going to ask you to memorize these. They're in your journal, as well as with a sticker on the back. And the last one was cotangent, which is adjacent over opposite. Okay, so go ahead and try those and come on back. They're real quick. Here are the answers for those two. The cosecant of V was 13 over 5, which could be simplified. Same thing for the cotangent of B. It was square root of 21 over 2. Neither of those could be simplified either. Those are the answers. Perfect. Hope this helps. See you later. Bye.